I want to tell you a quick story about the Niyama we're going to talk about today. So there was this old native or first American chief teaching his grandson about life. He said, "A fight is going on inside me. It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One wolf is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, pride. And the other one is good. He is joy, peace, kindness, faith, compassion, truth, and love. The same fight is going on inside of you and inside of every other person too." The grandson then asks his grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" And the old chief simply replied, "The one you feed." Let's talk about tapas. So you've been to a few or maybe many yoga classes and you are hooked. Somehow you feel better, kinder, more connected to yourself and those around you. Your friends view you as a hippie now, and your parents, well, they think it's a phase. Regardless, when you are on your mat, you are home. Yoga teachers and students, come learn how yoga can help you navigate the daily grind, breakups, your anxiety from a place of clarity and compassion. Welcome to the Modern Yogi Podcast, hosted by me, Laura Siljander. Misfits, earthlings, yogis, take a deep breath, check in to see how you're doing, body, mind, and soul, because you have arrived. Hello, my modern yogis. I hope you've had a great week. And for those of you who didn't, I'm sorry, because I haven't had a good week either. You know, mental health and yoga, it's my life. It's where I spend almost all day. And work just got out of control last week. Out of control. And for everything I crossed off my to-do list, 3 things were added on, and I felt like I couldn't keep up. I felt like I couldn't stay on top of what I needed to do. And then emails were rolling in, and things that should have been done that weren't done correctly kept rolling in, and life got overwhelming. Life got loud. And I threw my self-care to the side, saying that this week I just need to focus on work. This week is about work, not about self-care, and that's kind of what I chalked it up to. And then by the end of the week, I had kind of like a meltdown. I ripped my headphones out of my head. I opened the door really aggressively. I probably shouted a couple bad words, stomped around my house. I was pissed off. And my wife was like, "What the heck is going on?" And all I could respond with, because I felt so overwhelmed, is everything is wrong. Everything is wrong. Not very yogic. Or is it extremely yogic? And I said, well, I neglected my mind, I neglected my body and my spirit, and was just so focused on work that no wonder, of course. So I wanted just to talk about this because I felt really guilty after. I felt really guilty because here I'm supposed to be this Zen yoga person who has it all figured out, and I freaked out. And so if you're freaking out, you're not alone. Yes, yoga and knowing yourself makes you more resilient to stress, but stress still happens and life gets loud and life gets busy. So I guess I just want to normalize it because I know that I felt super guilty afterwards, kind of silly, rather than actually processing. I totally neglected what I needed to do for myself to get by. I didn't meditate. I wasn't exercising regularly. I wasn't breathing regularly. And I need to do those things. I need to live my yoga on the mat and off the mat. And that kind of is a great segue into the niyama we're going to talk about today, which is tapas. Not what you're eating, not the kind of restaurant you go to where you eat tapas, but it's spelled similarly, or maybe the same, I don't know. Tapas. This means self-discipline. It also means to burn or create heat. Now, before we get into this, I just want to quickly review that we are in the 8 Limbs of Yoga series, and there was this person or group of people referred to as Patanjali who wrote something called the Yoga Sutras. And the Yoga Sutras is a book of under 200 lessons. And out of the Yoga Sutras came the 8 Limbs of Yoga. And we went through the first limb of yoga, which were the yamas. Things like compassion, nonviolence, living your truth, non-hoarding, things of that nature. Now we're on the second limb, which are the Niyamas, also known as the 5 observances, but that didn't really make sense to me. But it's more about how to nourish and take care of yourself. And so we went through the first one, which was Saucha, which was cleanliness of the mind, the body, and your environment. And then we talked lastly about Samtosha, or contentment. And this week we're going to talk about Tapas, self-discipline, or to burn or create heat. So let's start with to burn or create heat. Have you ever felt like you went to a hot yoga class, or maybe you went for a run or a workout, and you created this heat within you, and it kind of silenced your anxiety a little bit, it mediated it, or your demons, I guess you could call them, the voices in your head, started to become a little bit quieter? That's tapas. You're creating this heat to burn away anxieties, that cruelty that we bestow on ourselves, or impurities. We work it out in this way. We create heat in the body so we can better deal with all of this stuff. Now, there's a couple other ways to look at tapas too, and that's through self-discipline. Tapas could mean rolling out your yoga mat even when you feel tired, or not pressing snooze and being late to work or class. However, tapas is that inner fire that burns and alerts you when you are not making a wise decision. For an example, when you press snooze on your alarm clock and you can't really go back to sleep because you have this thought like, I know I'm going to be late to work. That's tapas alerting you, hey, unwise decision. But sometimes this voice is really quiet and life is louder and we don't hear it. Tapas helps us cultivate this. Another way to view tapas is yoga is about trying to live a peaceful, virtuous life. How can I be the best person I can be? How can I honor my body, my environment, and the people around me? How can I honor the divine? How can I be peaceful? But in a culture or a society that doesn't really value kindness and compassion over beauty and power, it takes tapas, self-discipline, to stick to our yoga practices and to keep our minds focused more on these different ways to view our lives rather than how much money and power and how beautiful can I be, which sounds like duh, obviously, but just look at Instagram. The thing with the most likes on Instagram are usually the girls with the perfect bodies in a thong doing something rather than the person doing something nice for someone. That probably has a fraction of the likes. See what I mean by that? So it takes tapas, this like self-discipline, to like stay on this yogic path. In the beginning of this episode, I kind of told you the story about the chief and the grandson talking about the 2 wolves that are fighting within us. This one wolf that is harsh, this other wolf which is soft, gentle, kind. So tapas of the mind, it's which wolf do you feed within you? Is it the wolf that's kind of greedy, hungry all the time, that has a lot of self-pity or anger or arrogance? Or are we feeding our mind, trying to stay with our compassion and our kindness and our faith and our peace and our joy? That was what that story is about. Which one are you feeding? And I can tell you the one that I was feeding last week when I had a meltdown was not the good wolf. And that wolf showed. Probably snarled my teeth or something weird when I was having a meltdown. Swami Satchidananda said, tapas is self-discipline but not self-torture, meaning to practice tapas means a balance of ahimsa, compassion, and fortitude. Also something that I failed to do last week, which I'm reflecting on it now and I'm trying to learn. Just kind of like Samtosha. What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? I was way beyond my baseline of my contentment last week when I had a meltdown. So a balance of compassion and fortitude. So not self-torture. I was kind of like, okay, I'm just going to focus all my time and diligence and bandwidth to my work. It was almost like I'm a martyr for my work this week, and it showed. I neglected my self-care. Sometimes mommy guilt comes up with some of this stuff When mommy guilt comes in, when moms need to do their own thing and they feel guilty because their kids need stuff, feel like this is where mommy guilt can kind of come in. You need to take care of yourself too. You can't pour from an empty glass. Rolf Gates, I think, said this. Tapas has a heart of self-growth and transformation. Tapas has a heart of self-growth and transformation. It's that inner drive. That's sort of that thing that it's that soft voice that says you're making an unwise decision or you're making a wise decision. But there's 3 ways that tapas can be experienced. So if your self-discipline is blocked, perhaps you feel lethargic, unmotivated, depressed. And that's the case. That's when you have to really dig into that tapas, roll out your yoga mat, and do the thing. If your tapas is overstimulated like mine was last week, you're impulsive, you're quick to anger perhaps, or you're injured, your body hurts. When your tapas is stable, you are driven and thoughtful. So totally different ways to view tapas. The self-discipline, to burn or to create heat. To not be a martyr, it's not self-torture, it's just self-discipline. Trying to find that balance in your life of work and play and self-care and all the things. Trying to find that balance. And when you notice a scale like kind of shifts over way too much to one side, you really feel that. You feel the repercussions. You can feel blocked and unmotivated. You could feel impulsive. Your body can hurt. Take a look at your self-discipline. How's it going? Are you a martyr or are you balanced? Are the voices in your head loud? Are we feeding that bad wolf? Do we need to roll out our yoga mat and figure out some stuff? I hope this was helpful for you this week. Perhaps if you're a yoga teacher, feel free to share that story. You could find it online of the 2 wolves and bring that into your yoga class. Remember to practice that compassion, that tapas with the mind. Practice that compassion and that self-discipline with your speech. And practice that compassion and tapas with your actions. Shalom, yogis.